Hello everyone, this is Sai Krishna Ram from MSc 3rd Sem. Today I am going to give my presentation on this topic, water cycle in the atmosphere. In this topic we will discuss about what is water cycle, what is its needs, its various process and its significance. So let's proceed. Before we discuss the water cycle, let us look at the distribution of water on the earth. Approximately 97% of the earth water resides in the ocean. A fraction of other 3% is the fresh water which frozen off into glacier and icebergs. The same water has been circulating around the earth for the past 4 billion years. Water is one of the most valuable resources required for all living organisms to survive on the earth. With the help of recycling, the same water has been moving around the world for centuries. This process of recycling water has been happening from the evolution of the earth. So what will be the definition of water cycle? It is the process of moving the earth water above and below the surface is called as water cycle. Let's take an overview of water cycle process. The continuous movement of water from the surface to clouds and from the clouds to the surface is also called as water cycle, or its another name is hydrologic cycle. Hydro means water. The water cycle, also known as the hydrologic cycle or hydrological cycle, that is a part of biogeochemical cycle that describes the continuous movement of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. The mass of water on earth remains fairly constant over time. The whole process of water cycle occurs in a cyclical form. That's why the mass of the water on earth remains fairly constant over time. The sun, air and many other factors includes in this process of the water cycle. Water goes through all the states of matter like solid, liquid and gas. So in this whole process we can see water in the form of solid and in the form of liquid as well as in the form of gas. The water cycle is a process in which water evaporates from the surface into the atmosphere, cools and condenses through the rain in clouds and again falls on the surface with the process of precipitation. Water falling on the surface of the water after precipitation gets collected in the form of groundwater, river, ponds, lakes, etc., which all combine in oceans and again get evaporated. The water vapors from the ocean or sea don't include salt, as salt is a heavy to rise due to its high density, which implies the water from ocean or sea is not salty. That means the water that will be evaporate from the ocean that doesn't contain salt. Why? Because salt is a heavy material to evaporate. What will be the effect of water cycle on this climate? Most of the steps of the process of water cycle include an important role of the sun, as solar energy powers the water cycle. The effect of evaporation may have led to the increase in the atmospheric temperature, making the surface warmer. But due to the evaporation cooling, the temperature is reduced, making the atmosphere cool. This evaporation cooling is done by the evaporation process through oceans, as 86% of the global evaporation occurs from the oceans. From this, we can say that adding or subtracting the heat makes the water cycle works continuously. This process of the water cycle includes the exchange of energy and influence the climate of the earth, as in the process of evaporation it takes off the energy, making the environment cool, and while condensing the water it releases the energy, making it cool, making the climate and temperature stable. The water vapors formed in the atmosphere are generally restricted to the troposphere. So now we will discuss about the steps of the water cycle. The water is available at a very low amount around the world. This amount of water has been moving in the world for centuries with the process of water cycle. The process of water cycle mainly includes four steps, which are evaporation, condensation, precipitation, runoff and infiltration. So first step is evaporation. Evaporation is a very important process, as this step includes the transfer of water from the earth's surface in the form of water vapors to the atmosphere. Normally, the evaporation of water takes place when the water touches its boiling point, that is 100 degrees. Evaporation is also known as transpiration. Why? Because transpiration as the transfer of water from the minute pores present on the leaves of the plant in the form of water vapors to the atmosphere is called as transpiration or total evaporation. The process of evaporation cooling cools the atmospheric temperature as the solar energy is falling on the surface of the earth, making the surface warm and making the vapors of the water present in the ocean move towards the atmosphere due to the rising air currents. Similarly, vapors from the plants, trees, wells, underground water, etc. rises off in the sky, making the earth's surface cool. The vapors can also be formed through snow or ice without even converting it into the water. This process of directly converting solid into a gaseous state is called as sublimation. The basic elements required for sublimation include strong sunlight, low air pressure, strong wind, low temperature, and low humidity. So, the next step is condensation. After the process of converting water into vapors that rise off in the sky, the vapors are again converted in the liquid form due to the increase in temperature as it comes in contact with the cool air, making the atmosphere cool. This process of conversion of vapors again in the liquid form is called as condensation. This process of condensation starts as soon as the air is full of water vapors and is ready to convert the vapors into water droplets again. The water vapors convert in the form of liquid after it hits the 0 degree temperature and combine to form a tiny droplet of water. These tiny droplets merge together to form a larger droplet of water. When the droplet is large enough to cross the off drift of the cloud formed by the water vapors, the droplets of the water tend to move out of the cloud and fall down due to the gravity of the earth. This process of falling of water droplets on the earth's surface is called as precipitation, which comes after the condensation. If these merged droplets pass through a high air pressure, then the droplets may get crystallized or freeze and fall upon the earth's surface in the solid form like ice, snow, etc. If the circumstances are between those of snow and rain, then the droplets will fall with, with the ice cold, a half frozen water droplet which is known as sleet. Then the next step of water cycle is precipitation. The water vapors after condensation are turned into water droplets which are inside the clouds moving around the world. These clouds strike each other due to the wind movement, resulting in the form of rain and fall back on the earth's surface in the form of rain, hail, snow, or sleet depending on the atmospheric temperature. This process of again falling of the water droplets on the earth's surface is known as precipitation, or precipitation occurs when the air cannot hold any more water droplets. The precipitation that falls in the form of water can fall on various places for further evaporation, like some may return back to the atmosphere by the process of evaporation. Some may get evaporated through the surface of leaves and plants. Some may get to the water bodies and directly flows to the ocean to get evaporated. Some penetrates into the soil with the process of infiltration to the streams and groundwater. The water present near volcanoes or anywhere near to thermal energy sources is called as spring. The last process of the water cycle is runoff and infiltration. When the water falls and comes to rest in lakes, ocean, wells, land, etc., the process is called as runoff. While dropping down, if the droplets get into the snow or ice form, the lakes and oceans get melted in the form of water. This increases the water flow in the lakes and rivers, which can bring the problems of floods. This is the reason why there are generally more floods in the spring or summer season as compared to the winters. This process of the water cycle is a cyclic process that has no end or beginning. The main advantage of this cycle is that there is no loss of water and the water present in the ocean and seas always remain leveled and there are clouds every time in the sky. Let us discuss about the significance of water cycle. So the water cycle has a tremendous impact on the climate. For instance, the greenhouse effect will cause a rise in temperature. Without the evaporative cooling effect of the water cycle, the temperature on the earth would rise drastically. That means जो greenhouse gases होती है जैसे कि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड मीथेन एंड ऑल अदर जो गैसेस होती है उनका काम होता है ये कि जो हीट सन से आते हैं अर्थ के ऊपर अर्थ को वो हीट को ये ऑब्जर्व कर लेते हैं और बैक होने नहीं देते. दैट्स वाई द टेम्परेचर ऑफ द अर्थ इंक्रीजेस rapidly and that will cause the global warming. So due to the process of evaporative cooling that will caused by water cycle जो कि टेम्परेचर को मतलब जो अर्थ होती है उसको वो कूल करते हैं और टेम्परेचर को नॉर्मल रखते हैं. अगर ये प्रोसेस नहीं होगा तो ग्रीन हाउस गैस के वजह से टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज करने लगेगा और दैट विल कॉज ग्लोबल वार्मिंग इन फ्यूचर. The water cycle is an extremely important process because it enables the availability of water for all living organisms and regulates weather patterns on our planet. वाटर साइकिल के वजह से जो वेदर का पैटर्न होती है हमारे प्लानट में वो भी रेगुलेट होती है. If water did not naturally recycle itself, we would run out of clean water which is essential to life. The water cycle is also an integral part of other biogeochemical cycle. Water cycle affects all life processes on this earth. The water cycle is also known the clean the air. For instance, during the process of precipitation, water vapors have to attach themselves onto the particles of dust. In polluted cities, the raindrops, apart from picking off dust, also pick up water soluble gas and pollutants as they fall from the clouds. Raindrops are also known to pick up biological agents such as bacteria and industrial soot particles and smoke. That was the significance of water cycle. So the process of the water cycle is a cyclic process that has no end or beginning. The main advantage of this cycle is that there is no loss of water and the water present in the ocean and seas always remain leveled and there are clouds every time in the sky. So that was all about water cycle. Thank you so much, ma'am.